Our questions are simple and direct, so feel free to use your 9 minutes to take it off in a little different direction if you need to.
Okay.
So the first question simply is how do we know that you're a conservative? You're currently serving. We know a little about you. But what is a real conservative? What's a Collin County conservative?
Thank you. I'd like to answer both those questions. We all know the running joke that everybody in Collin County is a Republican, even the Democrats. Of course, nowadays it seems like everybody's a conservative when it comes to campaign time. But there absolutely are some core bedrock principles of constitutional conservatism that let us know, that separate what it means to be a conservative. Principles like American exceptionalism, the idea that everyone has the opportunity to better themselves by the work of their own hands, by the work of their own strength and skill and knowledge. The sense of rule of law, that we are not a nation that respects people, that favors one over another, but that we're based on the rule of law, that we're all equal with the same ground rules. The sense of limited government, of course, is key, that our government has a very core role, and that is to provide the boundaries of law, of our behavior as we deal with each other, to provide that foundation of civil government, and that's it. Quite frankly, at that point, then we get to build upon that and build that American exceptionalism, to use that American exceptionalism to build a great nation with our skills and with our strength. The free market concept. Of course, with limited government, if we're going to keep government inside its borders, we don't need high taxes. Low taxes, another concept, and their core principle of conservative government. And so that's what it really means to be a conservative. And you asked the second question, well, how can you know that I am one of those? I will say this, 4 years ago when I came before you and I ran for this office, I made you certain promises. I promised you that I was a conservative. I promised you that I would stand for limited government and low taxes. And I'm honored that you elected me and supported me based on those promises. But now as I ask for your support again, what I'm most proud of is that I can stand before you, and while those promises are still bedrock, now I can ask you to support me based on my record. That I have done what I said I would do, that I have voted the way I said I would vote, that I have supported limited government, that I have said no when I needed to say no, and that I have voted for 3 tax cuts in 3 years. And so that record is what I want to continue to pursue as your county commissioner.
Sometimes to run for office looks like it would be a great challenge, a great opportunity to serve, to be a public servant. And then when you get into the job, you deal with the day-to-day realities of it. You know what it's like to be Collin County Commissioner. Why in the world do you want to do it again?
Sure. Well, there's no doubt that it has many headaches. The phone never stops ringing, the emails never stop coming. But quite frankly, there are so many blessings that come with that too. It really is an honor and a privilege to get to serve this community, to get to work with you, to take your phone calls and to take your emails and to work with you, helping navigate the halls of Collin County government. But really to try to work to build a better tomorrow for my 3 kiddos at home, also for your children and your grandchildren. Collin County is absolutely the best county and the best state in these United States. It is a remarkable place that attracts people and companies for opportunity for tomorrow. And that's what I would say drives me the most, is to get to keep doing that, to get to keep working on making sure that we are a great community. Now, quite frankly, you have much more to do with that than I ever could, because I believe in limited government. It means that I want to make sure and keep government in check and then hands off. But being part of that is very satisfying.
Thank you, Chris. Now the next question is that campaign financing can be a sensitive subject sometimes. What's your philosophy and your practice when it comes to campaign financing?
Sure. My philosophy is this: if I am clear and outspoken about my values, if anyone wants to contribute towards that because they believe in those shared values, then I'm happy to let them do that. If somebody wants to, quite frankly, what we worry about is who's wagging who's the tail wagging the dog, if you will, on campaign finance. The great news for me is I can say, being outspoken, being conservative, haven't really had to beat away any liberals that wanted to give me any money. So I'm thrilled that my campaign finance reports show support from so many people in this room, so many people across the halls of conservatism here in Collin County, those that support the same values that I believe in. And so I'm honored by that.
Next question has to do with critical issues. There are so many, but I'll just name three if I can remember three things at once. Illegal immigration in sanctuary cities, Syrian refugees that may be with little or no notice deposited in Collin County, defense of natural marriage. Any one or all of those, what can we do as a Collin County government? What should we do?
You know, most of those issues won't really touch Collin County government per se, but it will touch absolutely our lives as we live here in Collin County, as we live in Texas, as we live here in this nation. The first that you talked about, Syrian refugees, we've dealt with this question in the past, not Syrian refugees, but South American refugees. And we do have South American refugees in Collin County now that were put here, and nobody asks the Commissioner's Court, nobody, quite frankly, asks the Attorney General or the Governor. But we deal with that when we, from a government standpoint, those that are here, the rule of law applies to all of us. What we know, of course, is that immigration is a national issue. Even, quite frankly, when the federal government drops the ball, it becomes a state issue, not so much a county issue.
Comments on natural marriage?
Well, marriage is an institution. It is a biblical institution created by God between a man and a woman. Absolutely.
How does that touch on county government potentially?
Well, we've seen how it touches on it when the Supreme Court, when 9 people, 5 people make a decision that affects all of us, and they dictate how we're all going to live. Quite frankly, that's tyranny by government, in my opinion. And then it's carried out at the local level. So that is a very real issue at the local level. I saw the wave in the back.
Chris, we'd love to go deeper and have a half hour to really talk through more things. We just don't have the time in this forum. We do have questions from the audience. Rick, you were the first one up.
Yeah. Chris, as you know, property values in Collin County are skyrocketing. That gives you an automatic at least 10% increase in your tax dollars. What can you do to protect the citizens and give us some tax relief?
You bet. That's a very real question. Because quite frankly, the person who looked at their budget and made a decision and decided, yes, I can afford this house payment and this tax payment, 20 years later, 30 years later, as you're finishing up on your mortgage, the house payment's the same, but the taxes are now significantly higher. And we've seen people all over this community that are finding it very difficult to stay in their home and finding it difficult to buy a new home in this community. From a elected official standpoint, it's very easy for me because I don't have to be against high property appraisals. Property appraisals ought to move the way the market moves them. But then I have the opportunity to say, I'm going to cut the tax rate back. We know what the effective tax rate is, and I can cut that back. And I can say, I will give you a rate that will give us the same dollars with growth in this county. We know that there are more people moving in, but they also contribute to a broadening tax base. So as our tax base broadens, we ought to bring the tax rate down. We've done that 3 years in a row. I absolutely expect we'll do that 4 years in a row this next cycle if the market stays the same. And I absolutely am going to push for that, for a 4th annual tax rate decrease.
Chris, the county clerk is an independently elected official, and yet her office is funded through county taxes, and the county commissioner's courts allots it to him. If the county clerk decided not to issue same-sex marriage licenses and forbid any of her clerks to do so, and came to the commissioner's court to help with any lawsuits or any repercussions that may come from that, how would you vote on the commissioner's court to help fund her defense?
That's a great question. As you mentioned, she is independent. She makes her decisions separate from us, but we have a constitutional duty to fund her office so that she can carry out her responsibilities, and then we have a responsibility to defend her in her duties. I'll just go ahead and say this out loud. when the decision was made by the Supreme Court and every county in the nation was trying to decide what to do, I made it very clear to our district clerk that I would support her if she decided to take a hardline stance. So,
Amen.
Did we have another question? Chris, let me just ask you if you can think of any instance as county commissioner where your integrity was asked to be compromised. And is there anything along those lines that you'd be able to share with us?
I haven't, there's been no experience that I've had where the fundamental tenets of my integrity have been challenged. But quite frankly, I think that's true for most of us. We don't have somebody that comes up to us in our daily lives and asks us to just do a 180 and to absolutely throw aside our principles and our integrity. But what happens is that society chips away at the sides of our integrity and asks us to make small compromises. And that's really where I have found the challenge as your representative here at Collin County. Because everyone's conservative until they need government to do something for them. And I don't mean to beat up on anybody else. I'm sure I feel the same way. But it's, I need you to tell my neighbor to stop doing this, or I need you to help me with that. And oftentimes it's the hard answer of saying, these are the boundaries that I have under state law, and I can't cross those. And I might want to, I might absolutely sympathize, but if I'm going to be a respecter of law, and if I'm truly going to live out that concept of limited government, then I have to spell it out and say yes where I can and say no where I can't. And that's really been the challenge, which is sometimes hard because you do want to be able to help, but you recognize that the rule of law requires that I say no, I can't tell them they have to stop doing that.
That reminds me of the story of Davy Crockett in Congress. Many of you probably have heard it. I hope it's true and not legend, that in the early days of Congress, they wanted to provide some money for an incredibly worthy cause, for a very needy situation. And Davy Crockett allegedly, or in reality, gave a speech, and the essence of it was, it's not our money to give, even though the cause may be worthy. I think to a large extent, our county government is run that way. We appreciate it. Chris, we appreciate your time tonight, your willingness to be here, sir, for your past service, and your willingness to do it again. I'm sorry we can't go deeper, but please stay after if you will.
You bet. Thank you, sir. Thank you.